The First Amendment is first for a reason. It is the most important right we have as Americans and at the very core of who we are. Without the First Amendment of free speech, freedom of the press, freedom and assembly, the rest of the amendments are meaningless.
First Amendment, a collection of rights given to the American people, consisting of the freedom of religion, freedom to assemble, freedom of the press, and the freedom to petition. Above all, the right to free speech, the right to be American.
Hey, I'm here with Joe Tueller, the HR manager for the Ada County Sheriff's Office.
Recognize that just because we have the First Amendment and the First Amendment allows us free speech doesn't necessarily mean that we can say whatever we want without consequences, right? Mm-hmm. So like the most recent example I can think of is Kevin Hart. He's a famous actor and comedian. I don't know if you know who he is, but I saw like 2 days ago, he was supposed to be the main guy at the Oscars. But I guess a long time ago, he had put stuff on social media or said stuff about a group of people that was really offensive. And so, yes, does he have a right to say that under freedom of speech? Does he have a right to call out a certain group of people, even if it's going to offend them? Absolutely, yes, he does, because the freedom of speech in the First Amendment allows him to do that. But there was consequences, right? So there was a whole bunch of backlash, and he ended up basically just, I think it was yesterday, saying, okay, I'm not gonna host the Oscars. I'm not gonna be, the one over the Oscars. And so, yes, freedom of speech allows people to say what they want in most cases, but it doesn't mean there's not going to be consequences. And I also think it's important to remember, or maybe you're going to get to this into one of your other questions, is that freedom of speech doesn't cover everything, right? Mm-hmm. So, yes, we can do and say a lot more than people in other countries, but there are certain things that are not protected, like, for example, go try to run around in your high school and yell, gun or fire, and cause a bunch of havoc, and then see if there's consequences to that.
Yeah.
Or run around an airport and say bomb. I mean, so there's certain things you still can't do. It doesn't mean you can say and do anything. There's certain things that are not protected. If you're gonna, convince somebody to harm somebody, those kinds of things. So freedom of speech doesn't mean whatever, whenever. And even if it does mean that it's legal and I can do something, it doesn't mean that there will be no consequences, just like that Kevin Hart example.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is, mostly you have the freedom of speech, but it's like there's going to be consequences that come along with it if you say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, next question. So how does the right of freedom of speech separate America from other countries?
Probably the one that comes to mind the most is probably the freedom of press, right? So in the United States of America, Trump can talk about fake news all he wants, and he can say, oh, that's fake news, or that news story or that newscaster is telling lies, but it's not against the law. Trump can't say put that person in jail. Well, in some countries, not only is that against the law and can the person in charge put someone in jail or prison for saying something that they disagree with, but they censor, they control what goes out.
This overall direct action movement with its sit-ins and its stand-ins, its wade-ins, its kneel-ins, its mass marches and pilgrimages and all of the other elements that enter the struggle.
Free speech throughout American history has been exercised through various news outlets and the act of protesting. But in today's age, it has turned into something totally different. Something that's free, easily accessible, and provocative. This new form is something we call social media.
Social media. A place where billions of people voice their opinion over current world issues and cat videos. A platform where one person can affect the lives of millions. The idea is either accepted, disputed, or forgotten.
I think over the last however many decades, we're losing a commonality among who we are as a people, and I think what social media has allowed us to do is kind of find that everybody gets their own little microphone to announce to the world what they believe and feel, which wasn't the case in the past. But
So what does it mean to be American? Well, share your thoughts, express your opinions, be socially active, but be mindful of the consequences. You have the right to free speech, but is it really free?